For this module, you'll need to know some key terms, such as the meaning of the words phoneme and grapheme and the difference between the two. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in language. A grapheme is a written representation of the sounds in language. For example, this is the written letter T, which is a grapheme. It represents the sound T, which is a phoneme. Now let's look at a few more key terms: phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics. In this chart, you see that phonological awareness instruction is teaching students to recognize and manipulate sounds in spoken language, including whole words and parts of words. An example in the classroom is teaching students to identify individual words in a sentence, such as counting the words in the sentence, "I went to the park." Phonemic awareness means teaching students to recognize and manipulate the individual sounds in language, such as recognizing that is the first sound in the word maple and also the last sound in the word gum. Phonemic awareness is one component of the larger category of phonological awareness. We'll dive deeper into all of the components of phonological awareness in just a few minutes. The last term to define is phonics. Phonics instruction involves teaching students connections between phonemes and graphemes, such as being able to use the letter M to spell the sound M. In summary, phonological and phonemic awareness involve identifying and manipulating sounds, while phonics ties those sounds to print. Before we dive into what phonological and phonemic awareness instruction look like in the classroom, let's talk about why this instruction is so critically important. Critical role of phonemic awareness in learning to read. Research has shown again and again that a strong sense of phonological and phonemic awareness provides the foundation for reading. In fact, research has shown that we can actually predict with a high level of accuracy whether a student will become a successful reader or a struggling reader by the end of third grade, based solely on their skills in phonological and phonemic awareness. Children need solid phonemic awareness in order for phonics instruction to be effective. The capacity to recognize, recall, and manipulate sequences of spoken sounds is a crucial phonological skill that contributes significantly to the distinction between proficient and struggling readers. The same is also true for students learning to spell. The spellers who struggle the most usually have a deficit in phonological awareness. This makes sense, right? Strong reading and spelling skills cannot be built upon a weak foundation. In fact, current theories of how students move from slowly decoding words letter by letter to quickly recognizing words stored in their memory is through their awareness of phonemes. Phonemic awareness seems to be the cement that forms a strong connection between graphemes and phonemes in the brain. This is where it gets a little complicated. Recent research has shown that many students can develop phonological and phonemic awareness skills on their own as they learn to read. Reading and phonological awareness skills appear to have a reciprocal relationship. As phonological awareness improves, so does learning to read. As learning to read improves, so does phonological awareness. These students are learning how to manipulate sounds in words and then using that knowledge in reading. As they read, they are then being exposed to new words, which helps some students gain a deeper understanding of sounds in words. But this reciprocal relationship doesn't occur for every student. So what then? The students who won't develop phonological awareness on their own need explicit instruction, which means giving clear and direct instruction on the sounds in words. Research has indicated substantial, ongoing benefits of phonemic awareness instruction for at-risk readers. Compared to their peers who do not receive this instruction, at-risk readers who receive explicit, systematic training in phonemic awareness make substantially more progress in reading. In fact, explicit instruction in phonemic awareness shows lasting word-level reading benefits for at-risk readers. As it turns out, only learning what sounds are represented by which letters does not automatically prompt phonemic awareness. For at-risk readers, letter sound learning on its own is no substitute for explicit phonemic awareness instruction. Perhaps you're wondering how phonological awareness instruction works for students who are learning English. There's evidence to suggest that phonological awareness developed in a student's strongest language can transfer to phonological awareness in English, which can then lead to improved word reading skills. Research in this topic is ongoing, but there appears to be evidence that students who have the capability to manipulate and process sounds in a first language are likely going to be able to do the same in an additional language. This is not a direct transfer, and there are many factors at play, such as how similar the sounds and writing systems are in the two languages. In this module, you'll learn some activities you can share with families of English learners that can help them strengthen these skills at home. Keep in mind that for English learners, evidence suggests that explicit phonological awareness instruction is important. Effective instruction of phonological and phonemic awareness. Let's look more closely at phonological awareness, which is the ability to recognize and manipulate sounds in spoken language. The components of phonological awareness include identifying words in a sentence, syllables, onset and rhyme, and phonemes in a word. When planning explicit and systematic instruction in phonological and phonemic awareness, it can be helpful to consider the progression of skills. These are not separate components that need to be mastered before advancing to the next rung in the ladder. The ladder is used to illustrate the progression of skills from least difficult at the word level to most difficult at the phoneme level. Children actually encounter all of these levels of language in everyday life whenever speech is present. Students' ability to learn these components of phonological awareness can be influenced by many factors, such as their innate abilities, the languages they learn, the books they read, the songs they sing, and other language experiences. While this is not a strict stage-by-stage progression, it can be a useful framework to keep in mind. Now, let's dive into phonemic awareness, which involves these 6 skills: blending, segmenting, isolation, discrimination, deletion, and substitution. Before digging into each subskill in detail, I'd like to point out a helpful tip. The National Reading Panel did a major meta-analysis of the research on phonemic awareness instruction. One of their important findings was that instruction that is explicit and systematic is most effective. Explicit instruction is direct and clear. Students aren't left to guess at key information. Systematic instruction means to focus on critical content and skills that are sequenced logically, with easier skills taught before more challenging skills. One of the ways to be explicit in the instruction of phonemes is to include articulatory gestures. Using articulatory gestures, we can explicitly teach students what the mouth does to produce different sounds. Articulatory gestures refer to the way the lips, teeth, tongue, vocal cords, and airstream move and are used to make a phoneme. For example, to produce the sound we close our lips, turn our voices on, and push air through our nose. Try saying the sound Now say it again, but plug your nose. Notice how the sound stops. Let's try another example with the sound P. This time, your lips are closed again, but they don't remain closed. Instead, to make the sound P, your voice is off and you release a puff of air. Try placing your hand in front of your mouth and saying the sound P. Did you feel the puff of air? While both and P begin with closed lips, they differ greatly in how they are produced. Bringing student attention to these differences can be helpful. This kind of explicit instruction can be especially helpful for English learners whose native language may include different sounds than English. Studies have suggested that training beginning readers with pictures of the mouth positions associated with different sounds actually helped the learners read words more easily. Paying attention to how to physically produce a sound can help learners make and differentiate phonemes. Pictures of articulatory gestures show how the mouth looks when making the ah phoneme, like in the beginning of the word octopus, compared to the phoneme, like in the middle of the word book. Some teachers even use mirrors when introducing sounds, so students can see what their mouths are doing to produce the sounds. This can be helpful when introducing students to a new sound as well as in phonemic awareness activities. Now that we've talked about how to teach phonemes with explicit instruction of articulatory gestures, let's talk about the 6 skills of phonemic awareness: blending, segmenting, isolation, discrimination, deletion, and substitution. First is phoneme blending, which involves putting separate phonemes together to make a word. This would involve a teacher saying something like, "Listen while I say these sounds, then put them together to make a word." N, a, t. The students would be expected to blend those sounds together and say the word not. Let's look at an example with the game Secret Code. In Secret Code, the teacher will give students the sounds and the words, and the student will guess the secret code word. Can you guess my secret code? F, I, sh, fish. V, e, t, vet. S, t, r, t, start. The next skill is phoneme segmentation, in which students break a word into its individual phonemes. This would involve a teacher saying something like, "Listen while I say this word." Then you say each sound in the word. The word is leaf. The students would be expected to say l, e, f. This is another opportunity to play reversed secret code. I'm going to give you a word, and you figure out what the secret code would be. The word is knee. N, e. Good. Next word is phone. F, o, n. The last word is ladder. L, a, d, er. Of the 6 skills within phonemic awareness, blending and segmenting are the most important in learning to read. When teaching blending and segmenting, here are some helpful tips to keep in mind. First, it can be helpful to start with continuous initial sounds. A continuous sound is one you can make continuously, such as versus a sound such as t. When saying a continuous sound, you can continue to say the sound without altering it until you run out of breath. When saying a stop sound, such as t, we cannot hold out that sound without changing it. It stops quickly. Using continuous initial sounds can scaffold the skill of blending for students who need extra support. Continuous sounds allow students to stretch out the sounds without altering their pronunciation. The graphemes with continuous sounds are F, L, M, N, R, S, V, and Z. It's easier for beginning readers to blend these together as they're just learning the concept of blending sounds to make words. The second tip is to use Elkanin boxes. Elkanin boxes, or sound boxes, are a useful way to make the abstract concept of segmenting sounds more concrete for developing readers. With sound boxes, students place a manipulative into a box for each sound in a word. For example, with the word sock, students would push a chip into each of the 3 boxes as they say the sounds s, a, k. For the word paint, they would place each manipulative as they say p, a, n, t. Elkanin boxes can be used with real or nonsense words and can be a helpful tool for students to have a more concrete way to identify individual sounds in words. The next skill is phoneme isolation, which involves students locating and separating one phoneme from the rest of the word. In this example, the teacher would say the word shut. Now say just the last sound in shut, and the student would say t. One activity to teach phoneme isolation also uses sound boxes. This game is called Find the Sound. The teacher will give students sound boxes and manipulatives, and then give students a word. The students will segment the word into its phonemes. The teacher may say something like, "Let's place a unifix cube for each sound in the word chop." And the students will place manipulatives ch, a, p. The teacher may ask, What was the last sound in chop? Students would touch the manipulative on the final box and say p. The teacher may try again. Let's place a unifix cube for each sound in the word net. Students place their manipulatives n, e, t. Can you find the vowel sound e? Students will touch the middle box and say e. The next skill within phonemic awareness is phoneme discrimination. In phoneme discrimination, students need to hear similarities and differences between phonemes. For example, recognizing that doll, hill, and fell all have the same ending sound l, or that in the words trick, trip, and trap, that trap has a different medial sound. This can involve the teacher saying, which of these words doesn't have the same middle sound? Trick, trip, or trap? The student would then need to say the word trap. Another example of phoneme discrimination is to play an activity called What's the Same? In the game, What's the Same? The teacher will give 3 words, and the students determine what is the same in all 3 of those words. The teacher may say something like, I'll tell you 3 words. Listen closely and see if you can tell me what sound is the same in all 3 of my words. Game, rain, tape. The students will say A. Trap, mop, drip. The students would say P. It's important to make sure that the target sound is in the same position in all 3 words. If students struggle to discriminate between sounds or struggle to find a sound that is similar between words, this is a great opportunity to bring back the explicit instruction on articulatory gestures that was discussed earlier. An educator could give students a handheld mirror, then ask them to say the words again. Using our example in the game What's the Same?, a teacher could ask students to watch their mouths in a mirror and say the words trap, mop, and drip. If students don't notice immediately that their mouths form the p sound at the end of each word, a teacher could prompt by saying, notice what your mouth is doing at the end of each word. What are your lips doing? Is any air coming out of your mouth? Is your voice on? And so on. This explicit instruction can be instrumental in bringing student attention to the sounds in words and can be particularly helpful for English learners. The next skill is phoneme deletion. As the name suggests, this involves removing one phoneme from a word. For example, given the word fit and asked to take away the f, students would respond it. For students that find this activity less clear, using manipulatives can be a helpful scaffold, such as in the following example. This game is called Take It Away. The teacher gives a word. Using sound boxes, the students will place a manipulative for each sound in the word. The teacher then asks students to take away a particular sound. Students take away that manipulative and say the new word. Here's what that might sound like. Okay, let's place a penny for each sound in the word fly. The students will place 3 manipulatives sounding out f, l, I. Now say fly, but don't say f. What's left? The students will take away the manipulative that represents the initial sound, and they say lie. The next skill is phoneme substitution, which is the most challenging skill in this progression. It involves removing one phoneme from a word and changing it to a different phoneme. For example, say roast. Now say roast, but instead of r, say t. What word do you have? Toast. Let's bring back the game Secret Code for this advanced skill. In this example, the teacher is scaffolding this skill by using sound boxes and manipulatives. Let's take a look. The teacher will give a word. Using Elkanon boxes, the students will place a manipulative for each sound in the word. The teacher will ask students to take away a particular sound, so the students will take away that manipulative and read the new word. Then the teacher will give a new sound to add. This is what that might sound like. Let's place a penny for each sound in the word glow. The students place 3 manipulatives sounding out g, l, o. Now say glow, but instead of g, say s. Students take away the manipulative that represented the initial sound and add a different manipulative, slow. This game can also be played orally without any materials. To do that, the teacher would simply give the students the directions out loud and the students would respond. For example, say blue. Now say blue, but instead of b, say k. Students would respond clue. Now that we've gone through each stage in detail, from words to phonemes, let me go over 2 additional points. First, it is useful for teachers to know this progression of phonological awareness skills in observation of student use of language and assessment of literacy skills. Knowing which students are struggling with these skills can indicate students who might need more support or further assessment for a possible difficulty in reading. Early identification and intervention of reading difficulties is critically important for getting students the help they need to continue on the path of successful reading. Second, the National Reading Panel emphasized the importance of bringing student attention to the connection between phonemic awareness instruction and reading. Phonemic awareness is identifying and manipulating sounds. Sometimes students don't realize that reading is working with those same sounds, just written down. Multiple studies reviewed by the National Reading Panel indicated that phonemic awareness does improve reading outcomes when taught by itself. However, when phonemic awareness instruction is combined with instruction on how to apply these skills to letters and written words, it is even more effective. The National Early Literacy Panel further supported this in their report, which indicated that instructional techniques combining phonological awareness instruction with print-related training had the greatest impacts on learning. Developing readers are doing the important work of connecting sounds to written letters, which helps them on the path to successful reading. What would this look like in some of the activities we've discussed so far? In the first rung of the phonological awareness ladder, students were using manipulatives to count the words in a sentence. After students count the words, a teacher could write the sentence on the board, pointing out how the spaces between words show readers where one word ends and another begins. Then, the teacher could model how to double-check the number of words students counted with manipulatives by using the sentence itself to count. At this stage, the teacher shouldn't expect students to be able to read the sentence by themselves. However, incorporating print in this way may help to increase student awareness of print concepts, the idea that in English, writing moves from left to right, there are spaces between words, and that punctuation tells us when sentences end. At the phoneme level, this becomes really exciting. Anytime students use sound boxes with a manipulative, an easy way to incorporate print is for students to remove the manipulative and write the letter. For example, to incorporate print in the activity Find the Sound, the teacher would first give a word. Students would segment it, placing manipulatives in each box to represent the sounds in the word. The teacher would then ask students to locate the target sound. Then, to incorporate print, the teacher would guide students to name the letter that spells that sound and to write it in the box. In the secret code activity, a teacher could incorporate print at the blending stage and the segmenting stage. To incorporate print, the teacher could have sound boxes on the board and write the letters as they say the sound for students to blend together. In summary, here are the 6 skills that are part of phonemic awareness instruction listed in order from least difficult to most difficult: blending, segmenting, isolation, discrimination, deletion, and substitution. Of these 6 skills to work with, phoneme blending and phoneme segmentation are the most important to cement knowledge of phonemes and graphemes for successful reading. This is important for teachers to know because in a school day where time is limited, teachers can plan to prioritize these 2 skills during the time that is devoted to phonemic awareness instruction. Phonological and phonemic awareness instruction does not need to take a substantial amount of time. In fact, it only needs to be around 5 to 15 minutes a day. There are many opportunities during the day in which to add some phonological and phonemic awareness work. We have learned that phonological awareness instruction is teaching students to recognize and manipulate sounds in spoken language, including whole words and parts of words. Phonemic awareness means teaching students to recognize and manipulate the individual sounds in language. Phonics instruction involves teaching students connections between phonemes and graphemes. Generally speaking, phonological and phonemic awareness involve identifying and manipulating sounds, while phonics ties those sounds to print. We learned the progression of skills within phonological awareness and that the two most beneficial tasks in phonemic awareness are blending and segmenting. We also learned how crucial phonological and phonemic awareness are in learning to read, and that explicit and systematic instruction in phonological and phonemic awareness can be beneficial for every learner.